America is the only place where someone can go $8,000 into debt trying to save money. And trust me, that's not even the warm-up for what comes next. At 1. A man managed to rack up nearly $12,000 in credit card debt because he decided his life's destiny was to become a gourmet home chef after watching exactly one cooking show. And instead of starting small, say buying a pan, he bought every kitchen gadget that has ever been pitched on a late-night TV, including a $900 sous vide machine he never unboxed, a smart cutting board that required a subscription, and a novelty meat smoker shaped like a cartoon pig. He then discovered he did not like cooking, did not enjoy ingredients that didn't come pre-shredded, and ultimately used the sous vide machine as a doorstop. When the credit card statement arrived, he reportedly told friends that he had invested in himself, which is an inspiring sentiment right up until you realize the only thing he ever successfully cooked was his credit score, slow and steady, until it reached well done. 2. A woman accumulated almost $20,000 in debt attending motivational seminars where self-proclaimed financial gurus with sparkling sneakers and unearned confidence insisted she was only one mindset shift away from becoming a millionaire, which is bold, considering the ticket to each event cost more than her car payment and the exclusive VIP upgrade merely allowed her to sit 6 feet closer to a man aggressively quoting fortune cookies. She bought every workbook, bonus workbook, and premium platinum workbook, each promising secrets that turned out to be identical instructions written in different fonts. When her bank account finally resembled an abandoned building, she asked for a refund and was told that scarcity was a limiting belief. The only miracle she achieved was realizing she had paid thousands of dollars to be repeatedly scolded by a man named Bryce, who hasn't paid taxes since the Obama administration. 3. One guy believed the worst possible fate was missing out on an airline deal. So, whenever he saw a flash sale, even to cities he couldn't spell, he charged it immediately, reasoning that future him would figure out what to do with 14 non-refundable tickets to places he did not have vacation time for. He eventually owed almost $9,000 for trips he never took, because flights with 3 layovers, 2 overnight stays, and a 4 a.m. departure aren't exactly compatible with a job that expects you to show up. When the debt collectors called, he claimed these were strategic travel investments, a phrase that has never once made sense in any universe. Ultimately, he sold the suitcases he bought on impulse just to cover a single minimum payment, proving that sometimes the real journey is the one your credit card makes directly into despair. 4. A couple went nearly $30,000 into debt because they were determined to win a neighborhood holiday decoration contest that offered for reasons. Unclear, a $50 Starbucks gift card as the grand prize. They purchased enough lights to illuminate a minor league baseball stadium, hired a professional snow machine despite living in a warm climate, and installed an animatronic Santa that malfunctioned and shouted profanity at children. Their electric bill briefly resembled a ransom demand. When they didn't win, losing to a neighbor with a simple but tasteful wreath, they attempted to dispute the results with the HOA, which awarded them nothing except a sternly worded letter about noise violations. The couple now display far fewer decorations, mainly because the inflatable gingerbread house they bought requires a power draw comparable to a cruise ship. 5. A college student built up $7,400 of credit card debt exclusively on energy drinks, convenience store snacks, and emergency fast food runs, which occurred with such frequency that one might conclude his entire life was an emergency. When asked why he didn't just buy groceries, he said cooking required too many steps and also pots, which he refused to own on principle. His bank statements looked like a loyalty program fever dream, with charges from every gas station within a 3-mile radius. The true artistry emerged when he tried to apply for a beginner credit card to rebuild his financial life, only for the bank to question why 82% of his purchases were neon-colored beverages marketed to raccoons with insomnia. His debt didn't teach him to cook, but it did teach him to switch to store-brand caffeine, which is character development, sort of. 6. A man became convinced that cryptocurrency was his ticket to retiring at 35. Despite being 34 and holding zero knowledge of how anything blockchain-related actually works. He took out personal loans, maxed out 2 credit cards, and even refinanced his car to buy coins with names that sounded like they were invented by cartoon villains. When the value plummeted overnight, he insisted this was market breathing, as though the economy were an asthmatic dragon having a moment. Eventually, he printed inspirational quotes about diamond hands and taped them around his apartment like he was preparing for a motivational hostage situation. His debt ballooned, his coin portfolio shriveled, and the only thing he actually mined was a profound sense of existential regret. 7. A woman entered a multi-level marketing scheme after being told she had entrepreneurial aura, which should have been her first clue that she was about to lose money. She purchased thousands of dollars of essential oils, motivational journals, and oddly aggressive self-branding materials. She never recruited anyone because her friends were certain they'd end up forced into attending lavender-themed Zoom calls. Her garage eventually contained enough unsold product to fumigate a municipal building. When she attempted to return the merchandise, the company replied that returns were not allowed because abundance must flow forward. Her abundance flowed directly into debt collections, and she now avoids anything scented, including candles, out of emotional fatigue. 8. One man went deep into debt buying rare collectibles he assumed would skyrocket in value because he had seen a documentary about vintage toys selling for millions, apparently forgetting that such results require cultural significance and not whatever limited edition burger mascot figurines he impulsively purchased from an online auction. His collection included items still sticky with fast food residue, which he insisted added authenticity. When he tried to appraise the collection, the expert reacted with the same expression one typically reserves for raccoons in the pantry. The market value turned out to be roughly 6 cents per item, give or take emotional devastation. His attempt to become a legendary collector succeeded only in becoming a textbook case of financial miscalculation. 9. A guy bought a $4,000 adjustable bed after a salesperson told him it would elevate his lifestyle, which he apparently interpreted as literal. He financed the whole thing on a store credit plan that began with low monthly payments and escalated into what looked like rent for a beachfront condo. The bed's motor broke within 2 months because he used it as a makeshift recliner to watch sports, eat microwaved meals, and occasionally drop his laptop onto the frame. When he called customer service demanding repairs, they informed him he had voided the warranty by living aggressively. Stuck with a non-functional luxury bed and a rapidly growing debt balance, he now sleeps on a futon and pays more per month for the broken bed than he does for groceries. 10. One woman went wildly into debt trying to maintain an Instagram-worthy lifestyle, which in practice meant charging every brunch, latte, and pastel-colored dessert that matched her curated aesthetic. She traveled to destinations chosen solely for having walls suitable for photo backdrops, and when her credit card hit its limit, she got another one for business expenses, despite having no business except photographing outfits that were returned the next day. When the debt finally caught up to her, she insisted she had built a personal brand, a phrase that apparently carries no weight with banks. Her financial reality eventually became the kind of plot twist even influencers can't filter away. The brand may have been pretty, but the bill arrived in brutal HD. 11. An employee racked up thousands in debt after deciding to commute exclusively by rideshare because his old car made a weird noise, which he never investigated. Instead, he paid surge pricing every morning, surge pricing every evening, and sometimes surge pricing for no identifiable reason, all while insisting this was temporary. Months later, he had effectively paid enough to buy a new car outright, but instead had nothing except a collection of drivers who recognized him by name. When his credit card hit its limit, he tried to justify the spending by claiming he had supported local gig economy workers, which is an admirable sentiment but not traditionally considered a budget strategy. He now walks to work, which ironically solved the noise problem. 12. A man joined a luxury gym to reinvent himself, immediately financed a pricey multi-year membership, and then attended exactly twice before concluding that exercise equipment had bad vibes. Instead of canceling, he doubled down on the debt by purchasing expensive athleisure so he could look fit while thinking about getting fit, which isn't a category recognized by any athletic organization. The gym sent him promotional emails encouraging him to return, possibly out of pity or disbelief. When he finally visited months later, he got winded using the automatic door. His financial transformation far outpaced his physical one, and by the time he canceled the membership, he owed enough to have bought a treadmill, a stationary bike, and several stern pep talks from an actual personal trainer. 13. A woman ended up deep in debt after deciding her dog deserved a luxurious lifestyle that rivaled royalty. She purchased designer sweaters, gourmet treats, a custom orthopedic bed, and a stroller that cost more than her own bicycle. She even hired a canine nutritionist who recommended a diet that required ingredients sourced from 3 different grocery stores and possibly a minor quest. The dog, for its part, preferred eating grass and rolling in mud. When she realized the pet expenses had surpassed her rent, she tried to negotiate payment extensions by explaining that dogs are basically children, which did not move the bank emotionally. The dog continues living its best life while her credit score whimpers quietly. 14. A man accumulated massive debt after becoming convinced that he needed a hobby with gravitas, which led him into the world of high-end photography equipment despite possessing the artistic instincts of a microwave. He bought professional lenses, tripods made from aerospace-grade materials, and a camera so advanced it required tutorials he refused to watch. His photos consistently featured blurry landscapes, mangled selfies, and the occasional unintentional picture of his feet. When he tried selling prints online, customers assumed the blurry effect was a glitch. The debt he accrued could have funded actual photography lessons. But where's the drama in competence? His equipment now lives in a closet, muttering silently about wasted potential. 15. A woman racked up shocking debt after deciding she needed a full assortment of emergency household gadgets, inspired by a survivalist reality show she binge-watched for 3 days straight. She bought solar panels she never installed, water barrels she never filled, radios she never used, and enough dehydrated meals to withstand multiple apocalypses, assuming none of them required actual preparation. The funniest part is that her region has mild weather, stable utilities, and a local emergency record so calm it could be used as a meditation soundtrack. When she realized the scale of her overspending, she tried to sell the supplies, only to discover that prepping gear depreciates faster than an open bag of lettuce. Her debt may not help in an emergency, but it did provide a realistic sense of danger. 16. One man decided he was going to become a professional drummer, despite possessing rhythm only in the sense that every sound he made was consistently unpleasant. He bought a full drum kit on credit, then added accessories, then added soundproofing, then learned that soundproofing is expensive and not actually soundproof. His neighbors began a petition, the landlord issued warnings, and his debt swelled to the price of a used compact car. After realizing he couldn't keep the drums or the apartment, he tried selling the kit, only to discover that used drum sets have the resale value of damp cardboard. His dream of rocking out ended not with a bang, but with a quietly humiliating minimum payment. 17. A woman went thousands into debt after deciding she was destined for a career in crafting homemade scented candles. An admirable dream until she discovered that making candles apparently required purchasing industrial wax melters, decorative jars priced like museum artifacts, and enough essential oils to fumigate a shopping mall. She signed up for craft fairs, bought custom signage, and spent hours creating scents that all mysteriously smelled like warm plastic. Her sales were so slow that even relatives avoided eye contact. When she attempted to calculate profit margins, she realized she would need to sell each candle for roughly the cost of a dental procedure. The debt became its own aroma, lingering far longer than any candle she made. 18. A guy managed to bury himself under a mountain of debt after becoming obsessed with biohacking, which for him meant buying every overpriced gadget that promised to optimize his mitochondria, despite not knowing where mitochondria actually live or whether his even wanted optimizing. He purchased a $2,000 red light therapy panel that made his apartment look like a villain's lair, a $600 vibrating platform that mostly confused his cat, and a $300 monthly subscription to a supplement box that essentially contained multivitamins wrapped in marketing. When he didn't feel any more enhanced, he assumed the problem was that he hadn't spent enough and doubled down by financing a cryotherapy package he used once before realizing he hated being cold. His debt increased dramatically, his mitochondria remained unbothered, and the only measurable improvement in his life was the speed with which automated billing could drain his checking account. 19. A woman racked up staggering debt after deciding her toddler needed to be enrolled in every enrichment class offered in a 20-mile radius, as if she were preparing the child to apply to Harvard's preschool program. She signed up for baby yoga, infant STEM labs, toddler mindfulness sessions, and a foreign language course taught by an instructor who mostly sang songs about snacks. Each monthly fee hit her card with ruthless precision. Meanwhile, the toddler's primary interests were running in circles, eating crayons, and occasionally roaring like a small but committed dinosaur. When she finally assessed the financial carnage, She realized she had spent more on toddler enlightenment than she had on her own college textbooks. The kid's biggest developmental milestone was learning to hide under tables, which, coincidentally, is exactly where her financial stability was last seen. 20. One man spiraled into significant debt after trying to impress a date by pretending he was super into wine, even though his previous experience involved choosing bottles based on which label looked the least judgmental. He bought cases of wine he couldn't pronounce, subscribed to a premium tasting club, and purchased a decanter shaped like an abstract swan that served no purpose except to mock him. The date didn't work out, mostly because she was actually into wine, and quickly realized he was swirling $90 bottles while describing them as grape-forward. Instead of abandoning the hobby, he kept buying expensive bottles out of stubbornness, as though he could financially brute force himself into sophistication. His apartment now resembles a failed vineyard, and his credit score pairs poorly with everything. 21. A woman plunged into debt after discovering online auctions and convincing herself she had a rare talent for spotting deals, a phrase that apparently meant bidding on anything shiny, vintage-looking, or described with suspicious adjectives like mysterious. She bought antique lamps that flickered ominously, a suitcase full of historic documents that turned out to be old receipts, and an ornate mirror rumored to be haunted, which she justified as art. She competed aggressively with anonymous bidders she imagined as aristocratic rivals, only to learn many were bots designed to exploit impulsive shoppers like herself. When the packages started arriving faster than she could open them, she realized she might have made some errors, particularly the one where she financed the entire adventure. Her home now resembles a thrift store run by ghosts, and she still owes money for the mirror she refuses to look directly at. 22. A guy stacked up debt by trying to turn his backyard into an outdoor oasis, despite having neither the budget nor the landscaping skills required for anything more advanced than owning grass. He financed patio furniture that weighed more than a small car, bought a fire pit that emitted enough smoke to qualify as a regional weather event, and installed decorative lighting that made his house glow like a casino signage prototype. He also splurged on a deluxe grill with features he didn't understand, including a Bluetooth component that he believed monitored meat but actually monitored his incompetence. His oasis lasted precisely one season before weather, squirrels, and gravity collectively returned the yard to its natural state of mild chaos. His debt, however, remains evergreen, unlike the lawn he forgot to water. 23. One woman accumulated thousands in debt trying to maintain the fantasy that she was a hostess extraordinaire, a persona largely built on curated Pinterest boards and optimism. She bought designer tableware, seasonal centerpieces, monogrammed napkins, and artisanal coasters carved from sustainable wood harvested by mythical forest creatures, or so she assumed, based on the price. She hosted exactly one dinner party before realizing she hated cooking, disliked guests staying past 9 p.m., and found the concept of cleaning up emotionally draining. The next morning she woke to a cluttered kitchen, a decimated credit limit, and a lingering scent of burnt appetizers. She now dines alone using mismatched plates she found on sale, while the fancy dinnerware waits patiently for its next appearance sometime between never and absolutely never. 24. A man managed to put himself in financial jeopardy after deciding to start a podcast despite lacking a topic, a plan, or even the smallest amount of charisma. He spent thousands on microphones, mixers, soundproof foam panels, and a subscription to a site that provided royalty-free background music intended for people who pretend to be more insightful than they are. His podcast lasted 3 episodes, each featuring him rambling incoherently about modern society, before quitting because editing felt too math-heavy. When he attempted to sell the equipment, he discovered the used podcast gear market is essentially people trading disappointment back and forth. Now he owns a room full of acoustic foam he can't afford to remove and a debt balance that remains painfully loud. 25. A woman decided she needed to learn every trending hobby on the internet and collected debt like it was a competitive sport. She bought a pottery wheel she used once before, discovering clay feels too clay-like, a sewing machine that intimidated her, a ukulele that mocked her from across the room, and calligraphy pens that only produced letters shaped like resigned noodles. Each hobby came with mandatory starter kits, beginner courses, and follow-up purchases advertised as essential, though essential to what remains unclear. Her living space became an archaeological dig site of abandoned passions, each layer revealing another impulse purchase. When she totaled the costs, she realized she could have taken a course in one skill and become competent, but competence doesn't ship free in 2 days. 26. One man plunged into impressive debt attempting to become a gourmet coffee expert because he felt regular coffee lacked depth. He bought a high-end espresso machine with more buttons than his car, rare beans grown exclusively on a hillside accessible only by goats, and a grinder so precise it could reduce a house into powder if someone misread the instructions. He spent hours perfecting latte art that always came out looking like anxiety. When he realized professional baristas make it seem easy because they know what they're doing, he doubled down out of pride, investing in classes, tools, and a subscription to a magazine dedicated to bean appreciation. His home brewing setup now appears more complicated than missile launch protocol, and his debt has brewed longer than any coffee he's ever made. 27. A woman spiraled into debt after becoming convinced she should build passive income by flipping furniture, inspired by videos that made sanding and painting look like activities that never involved dust, sweat, or existential reflection. She bought old dressers, nightstands, and chairs from online listings, then purchased enough paint samples to supply a small art school. She learned quickly that furniture flipping requires patience, skill, and an ability to distinguish between quirky vintage charm and structurally compromised. Most of her projects ended up wobbly, sticky, or somehow both. When she tried selling them, buyers responded with polite silence. Her garage became an accidental museum of pastel-colored mistakes, and her credit card balance became the only thing she successfully restored. 28. A guy created an avalanche of debt after deciding he needed to dress for the job you want, which he interpreted as purchasing a wardrobe fit for a billionaire CEO, despite currently working in an office where business casual means jeans without holes. He bought tailored suits, Italian shoes that required special care instructions he ignored, and enough cologne to fumigate a convention center. He even bought a watch so expensive it came in its own suitcase, though he never set the time correctly. His co-workers assumed he was either interviewing elsewhere or laundering money. When he realized no job offer had materialized, he tried returning the clothes, only to learn that final sale is retail code for "you made a terrible decision and we support your journey." Now he wears the suits to grocery stores just to feel he's getting his money's worth. 29. A woman built overwhelming debt trying to recreate the aesthetic of minimalist home decor, unaware that minimalism is surprisingly expensive when every object must be curated, handcrafted, sustainably sourced, and ethically blessed by monks. She bought furniture made from reclaimed wood, lamps shaped like abstract emotions, and storage bins designed to hide everything except the cost. Ironically, her home felt cluttered because she kept buying items meant to eliminate clutter. She also took a course on intentional living, which primarily taught her to buy more things intentionally. Eventually, she discovered that her version of minimalism had maximized her debt, and the only truly minimalist thing left was her bank account. 30. A man drove himself into debt trying to train for a marathon, despite not enjoying running or having any meaningful history with physical exertion. He believed expensive gear would compensate for his lack of endurance, so he bought performance shoes, moisture-wicking outfits, a GPS watch with more functions than a spaceship, and electrolyte supplements that tasted like regret. His training consisted mostly of running half a mile, lying on the sidewalk dramatically, and buying more gear to fix what he assumed was a technical problem. When race day arrived, he made it to the starting line, took a heroic selfie, and immediately sprained an ankle. He now owns enough athletic wear to clothe a small track team and a debt balance that runs laps around him. 31. One woman ended up in debt after deciding her cat needed a lifestyle upgrade befitting a high-profile influencer pet. She purchased a designer scratching post, a velvet chaise lounge, a cat tree taller than her actual tree, and a water fountain shaped like an ancient artifact. The cat ignored every luxury item and chose to sleep in a cardboard box from a shoe order she regretted buying. Refusing to accept this betrayal, she bought premium treats, personalized bowls, and a monthly subscription box that delivered toys the cat immediately kicked under the fridge. By the time she realized she had spent more money enhancing a feline lifestyle than her own, the cat had adopted a new hobby: shedding on the unpaid bills. 32. A man accumulated serious debt attempting to become a home bartender without realizing that bartending requires more than buying shiny tools and shouting "craft mixology" into the void. He bought thousands of dollars worth of liquor, bitters, mixers, shakers, coasters, and a bar cart that looked like it belonged in a hotel lobby. He memorized half of a cocktail recipe before deciding to improvise, resulting in drinks that tasted like confusion. He invited friends over, only to learn that nobody wants a cocktail that involves 8 ingredients, 3 disclaimers, and a follow-up apology. His bar cart now functions primarily as storage for bottles he'll never finish, and his debt remains the only thing that keeps pouring. 33. A woman got buried in debt after convincing herself she needed an elaborate home office to stay motivated, despite having a job that mostly involved answering emails. She purchased an ergonomic chair that resembled futuristic medical equipment, a standing desk with LED lighting, a keyboard designed for people who type like concert pianists, and decor that suggested she was preparing to host TED Talks. Her productivity did not increase, but her tendency to swivel in the expensive chair while questioning her life choices did. When she tried to justify the spending as a tax write-off, her accountant gently reminded her that enthusiasm is not deductible. The office remains impressive, though the only thing produced in it is debt. 34. A guy destroyed his finances by committing to an annual vacation tradition he absolutely could not afford but refused to cancel, because he believed consistency was the foundation of adulthood. He charged flights, hotels, excursions, and meals with the confidence of someone who assumed future income would magically appear. He chose destinations entirely based on which ones had the best photo ops, because nothing says financial stability like posing next to a waterfall while ignoring a growing credit card balance. His vacation album looked incredible, which is more than can be said for his monthly statements. Eventually, he had to choose between another trip and paying down his debt, and he hesitated long enough to confirm the obvious. Denial pairs beautifully with tropical scenery. 35. A woman descended into catastrophic debt after deciding she wanted her wedding to feel like a royal event, which is adorable considering the British monarchy doesn't even pay retail. She booked a venue that required signing a contract written in calligraphy, always a warning sign, hired a string quartet even though she wanted pop music, and bought a dress so expensive it came with a guard who watched her try it on. She paid for gold-plated invitations, imported flowers, and a cake taller than her fiancé. The wedding photographer charged extra every time someone blinked. By the time she walked down the aisle, the financial hole was so deep she could have declared herself Queen of Deficit Land. The marriage lasted 2 years. The debt is still together and thriving, proving some unions truly are eternal. 36. A guy stacked up debt trying to become a professional gamer, despite having reflexes calibrated somewhere between dial-up internet and a potato. He bought 3 monitors for immersion, a gaming chair shaped like a luxury escape pod, a PC powerful enough to simulate weather patterns, and neon lights that made his room look like a nightclub with low self-esteem. He streamed every night to an audience of exactly 2 bots and 1 confused relative. Eventually, he entered a competitive tournament, lost in the first round to a teenager who played from a Chromebook, and immediately purchased more equipment, claiming he lacked performance synergy. His credit score now respawns monthly, but unfortunately not with full health. 37. A woman managed to set a new personal record for debt after deciding that couponing could become her financial superpower, which would have been inspiring if she didn't treat coupons like lottery tickets. She started buying items just because they were discounted, eventually amassing a stockpile that made her home look like a small, badly organized convenience store. She bought 47 bottles of shampoo despite having short hair, 32 jars of pickles despite not liking pickles, and enough paper towels to absorb a biblical flood. She insisted she was saving money, a statement that wilted the moment her credit card bill revealed she had spent more chasing deals than she ever could have saved. Her pantry is now an accidental museum of unnecessary bargains, curated by Visa. 38. A man took on massive debt trying to build a backyard koi pond after seeing a video claiming it would improve mental clarity, apparently forgetting that clarity is harder to achieve when you owe thousands to a contractor named Skip. He bought exotic koi fish with names like Imperial Blossom and River Emperor, each costing more than a month's rent. The pond liner ripped, the pump malfunctioned, raccoons discovered the buffet, and the fish achieved clarity by becoming former fish. Determined not to be defeated, he spent even more on reinforcements, creating a pond so fortified it resembled an aquatic prison for fish that no longer existed. His mindset didn't improve. but his ability to explain sunk costs certainly did. 39. A woman buried herself in debt trying to maintain her status as the friend who always buys everyone around, a role she never asked for but eagerly embraced the moment she received her first credit card. She bought drinks for birthdays, holidays, Tuesdays, and people she barely knew, insisting generosity would come back around. It did, in the form of interest charges and an inbox full of payment reminders. Meanwhile, her friends began expecting her to pay, habitually glancing at her as soon as the bill arrived, like thirsty meerkats. When she finally tried to stop, someone said, "But that's your thing," proving nothing is more expensive than branding yourself as the group wallet. 40. One man accumulated shocking debt after falling victim to a subscription trap that began innocently with a single free trial and evolved into a digital hydra. Cancel one service and two more appear. He ended up subscribed to meditation apps he never opened, streaming platforms he forgot existed, meal kits he never cooked, and a fitness program that sent weekly guilt notifications. The funniest part was that he kept telling himself he'd eventually use them all, as if there were a future in which he watched 8 shows at once while meditating on a stationary bike. When he finally checked his bank statements, he discovered he had essentially funded a small tech startup without receiving equity, perks, or even abs. 41. A woman torpedoed her finances trying to become a professional baker because friends told her she made great cookies, a compliment that clearly should come with warnings. She bought high-end mixers, industrial shelving, decorative boxes, edible glitter, and enough vanilla extract to tranquilize a moose. She rented booth space at a farmer's market, only to realize everyone else had been baking professionally since childhood, while she struggled to frost anything without it resembling an apology. Her profit margins vanished under the weight of her ingredient costs, and her biggest sale came from a customer who thought her booth was a charity. She still bakes occasionally, but only for people who promise not to encourage her again. 42. A man created a mountain of debt after deciding he was destined to become a DIY home renovation guy, inspired by TV shows where professionals complete miracle transformations in 22 edited minutes. He bought power tools he didn't know how to hold correctly, or tore down a wall that was not, in fact, ornamental, and installed shelves that defied physics in a bad way. His attempts at tiling resulted in a floor that felt like walking on top of abandoned hopes. He kept buying materials because he believed he was too far in to quit, a phrase shared by gamblers and people refusing to read instruction manuals. Eventually, he hired a contractor to fix the disaster, which cost more than simply never trying. 43. A woman collected a frankly impressive amount of debt after deciding she needed a different outfit for every social occasion, including highly specific ones like brunch, where you subtly try to look like you're not trying. She bought clothes for vacations she never booked, events she never attended, and moods she never experienced. Her closet had categories like optimistic jackets and existential crisis sweaters. Meanwhile, she wore the same 3 outfits in rotation because everything else required ironing, moral support, or better weather. When she finally tallied the cost of her clothing collection, she realized she had spent enough to open a boutique, but instead created a textile monument to indecision. 44. A guy managed to sink into enormous debt after taking Invest in Yourself too literally and enrolling in a slew of online masterclasses covering everything from negotiating tactics to underwater basket weaving. He never completed a single course, but kept signing up because the trailers made him feel productive. He owned a library of half-watched videos in which experts urged him to take action, which he interpreted as signing up for another class. He had become the academic equivalent of a gym member who buys workout clothes but never goes. The only skill he mastered was making minimum payments with maximum reluctance. 45. A woman spiraled into debt because she decided her newborn needed the best of everything, which meant buying premium diapers, organic baby formula infused with ingredients she couldn't pronounce, and a stroller priced like an entry-level vehicle. She purchased a crib engineered from sustainable wood harvested at dawn by monks, a baby monitor with night vision, and designer onesies guaranteed to fit for precisely 4 days. The baby, meanwhile, preferred chewing on cardboard and screaming at ceiling fans. When she realized how much she'd spent, she joked that the kid better get into college on a scholarship, unaware that the scholarship would be needed just to pay off infancy. 46. A man ended up with brutal debt after deciding to take going green to an extreme level by purchasing every eco-friendly gadget marketed to environmentally anxious consumers. He bought solar panels, a wind turbine, a rainwater harvesting system, composting equipment, and a smart thermostat so intelligent it judged him. He lived in a condo. The HOA objected immediately, leaving him with thousands of dollars in equipment he couldn't install without triggering a neighborhood rebellion. His carbon footprint didn't shrink, but his bank account did, leading to the ironic discovery that environmentalism is most effective when practiced by people who read the fine print. 47. A woman fell into catastrophic debt after trying to start a niche business selling handcrafted luxury pet hats, a concept she insisted was underserved and ready to explode. She bought fabrics, mannequins shaped like various dog breeds, and a website featuring photos of animals who looked deeply uncomfortable. She attended craft fairs where customers politely smiled before walking away, presumably questioning every decision that led them to that moment. Her inventory piled up as her credit limit disappeared, leaving her with dozens of tiny berets, fedoras, and sun hats that no dog has ever requested. Her business failed, but she inadvertently created the world's most fashionable lost cause. 48. A man collected record-breaking debt after embarking on a quest to find the perfect mattress, an endeavor that somehow became an epic saga of returns, upgrades, and financing plans with interest rates that required their own glossary. He tried memory foam, hybrid foam, gel-infused foam, and a mattress so firm it felt like lying on the truth. Each time he decided the mattress wasn't life-changing enough, he would upgrade to the next tier, as though mattresses were spiritual mentors. Eventually, he built a stack of unused mattresses in his spare room, turning it into a soft, looming tower of shame. He still doesn't sleep well, possibly because guilt has terrible lumbar support. 49. A woman got herself into shocking debt after becoming obsessed with buying limited edition items, believing scarcity automatically guaranteed future value. She bought limited edition sneakers she never wore, limited edition mugs she never filled, and limited edition posters she never hung. She once bought a limited edition spatula, presumably for flipping rare pancakes. Her home became a shrine to things intentionally produced in small quantities to manipulate people exactly like her. When she tried to resell them, she discovered something inconvenient. Limited edition does not mean desired. It means limited for a reason. Her collection remains limited indeed. To her closet. 50. A man descended into debt trying to pursue the ancient art of side hustles, which he interpreted as signing up for every gig platform available. He tried ride-sharing but got lost constantly, food delivery but ate the fries, dog walking but got dragged, and flipping items online but never mailed them. He boasted about being self-employed, which sounded noble until the IRS asked follow-up questions. His hustles didn't generate income so much as scatter chaos, leaving him with multiple deactivated accounts and a tax burden large enough to qualify as a new hobby. The only consistent thing he produced was liability. 51. A woman achieved the final form of debt stupidity when she financed a $14,000 financial empowerment retreat designed to teach participants how to avoid debt. Yes, a debt avoidance event that required going into debt. The retreat featured inspirational chants, crystal charging workshops, and a keynote speaker who encouraged everyone to transcend scarcity while sipping complimentary champagne they would definitely pay for later. She returned home emotionally refreshed and financially dehydrated, armed with nothing but a workbook that told her to believe abundance into existence, a strategy that worked beautifully for the retreat organizers. Her credit score immediately filed for emotional support. And honestly, it's poetic. The dumbest debt story is the one where the debt came prepackaged as wisdom. And there you have it, a financial circus so chaotic even credit scores would rather flee the country. Drop your vote for the dumbest disaster in the comments, toss a like if your wallet twitched in fear, and subscribe if you want to see how much deeper human money madness can go.